Gregg Berhalter has to be fired, and he will be. He can no longer be in charge of the United States men's national team. But who will replace him? Now, at the time of this recording, he is technically still the coach, or maybe by the time you're watching it, he has already been fired. It's a fact. He must go. But today I want to have an important conversation about the options that can replace him. Realistic ones. Not those crazy lists that you see online essentially linking the United States men's national team to the top 10 best coaches in the world with absolutely no logic behind it. With that said, let's talk about real options. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to this video where I want to talk about 5 coaches that can, and one of them should, replace Berhalter as the US men's national team head coach. It's time to replace the gym teacher for a legit professional soccer coach. And as I said before, I want to make sure they are realistic or somewhat realistic options. I know many of you are going to say, just get Klopp. And I would love to have Klopp take over the United States men's national team. Tim Howard even said he could convince Klopp to come. But I don't think Klopp would take the job. I want to believe he would, but let's be real. What are the odds? Now, understand that the job is far more attractive now than it was 18 months ago. We are closer to the World Cup, but still far enough that someone can build a strong team. The Federation would also only have to pay 2 years to the new coach instead of 3. So technically, they could afford to pay more or make a better offer. When making this list, I'm looking for coaches that have a proven track record with different clubs or national teams. Coaches that know how to play as underdogs, because that's what we're going to be in 2026, are willing to adapt and, could be available. Oh, you know what? Not being an idiot is also a requirement. And I know this should be a given, but it feels like they skipped that requirement in the past 2 coaching hires. Yeah, I'm talking about the 2 times that they hired Gregg Berhalter. With that said, don't forget to drop a like in this video if you haven't already, and let me know in the comment section down below. Who do you want as the next US men's national team coach, assuming Gregg Berhalter actually gets fired, which it looks like he's about to be very soon? And make sure whatever you comment is realistic. Like Pep Guardiola is not realistic. All right, play the intro and let's start the episode. The first coach that I want to talk about is Herve Renard. And keep in mind that this is not really in any particular order. These are just 5 coaches that I believe are realistic for the United States men's national team to get. But it's not a ranking. That's my point. All right, but let's start with Herve. And I think he would be a great fit for the United States men's national team, or as the next James Bond villain, because he kind of looks like one. Either one is fine. Herve took a break from men's soccer to coach the French women's national team during the 2023 World Cup and the Olympics in Paris. After all, he is French. And he's actually the Frenchiest French man to ever French. His contract does expire right after the Olympics this August of 2024, and he has expressed interest in coaching a national team for the 2026 World Cup. He even said that throughout his career, he would like to coach a team from each confederation in different World Cups. He has already coached a team from the CAF, which is Africa, and he did also coach a team from Asia in the World Cup as well. To me, he ticks almost all of the boxes needed to be the US coach. First of all, this dude is tough, like scary tough, and he has aura. He will quite literally toughen up these players and step on that weak mentality we have seen under Gregg Berhalter. If you don't believe me, just look up his halftime rant with the Saudi players against Argentina in the 2022 World Cup. By the way, he does speak English. The rant is in English. And speaking English is kind of important as the US men's national team coach. You don't need it, it doesn't have to be mandatory, but it's kind of important for you to be able to call the players on their bullshit in a language that they understand. Capiche? Herve Renard also has a proven track record with national teams and even as an underdog. He managed to win the African Cup of Nations with Zambia. Yes, with Zambia back in 2012. Then in 2015, he won it again, this time with the Ivory Coast. Herve Renard also has World Cup experience. He was the man in charge of Morocco in 2018 and then Saudi Arabia in 2022, even pulling that massive upset against Argentina. It was actually the only team in the 2022 World Cup that managed to defeat Argentina, that went on to win the tournament. By the way, when he failed with Morocco in 2019, because yes, he does have failures, and he failed with Morocco in the 2019 African Cup of Nations, he took full responsibility and resigned. You know, a true leader that takes responsibility, something we've never seen with Gregg Berhalter. And understand, Herve Renard is not perfect. He hasn't gotten out of the group stage in both World Cups that he was in charge with Morocco and Saudi Arabia. But again, he didn't really do bad in any of those World Cups. Morocco had a tough group with Spain and Portugal, and Saudi Arabia also had a semi-tough group, right? Argentina was there. Mexico, that's not that tough. What's my point? Is he perfect? No. Would he elevate the United States men's national team? Yes, absolutely. And he is a realistic choice due to his cost and career ambitions. I mean, he even made less money than Gregg Berhalter in the 2022 World Cup. He seems to be a much better guy as a national team coach instead of club, as he did fail in a few clubs. But again, both are different. A guy can be a good national team coach and a poor club coach. Personally, I think Herve Renard would be a very good hire. The next coach I want to talk about is Pellegrino Matarazzo. And he is actually one of my top choices. For starters, he's American. And as much as I don't think being American is a requirement, I believe it's a bonus. And at the same time, he's an outsider. He built his career in Germany. So he's American and an outsider. That ticks two boxes for me. Matarazzo played professionally or as a professional soccer player in lower division teams in Germany as a defender. So not a great playing career by any means, but as a coach, he has had some success in Germany. For starters, he was part of Julian Nagelsmann's coaching staff back in 2017 at Hoffenheim. Then in 2018, he became Nagelsmann's assistant while also working with the academy. Eventually, in late 2019, Stuttgart hired him to be a head coach, and at the time, they were in the second division of Germany. Matarazzo got them promoted, and then in his first season in the Bundesliga, he got Stuttgart to finish in 9th place, mid-table. Unfortunately, in October of 2022, he got fired from Stuttgart because they were underperforming during the season. He was then given a shot to coach Hoffenheim in February of 2023 with the task to save them from relegation because they were really struggling that season. Let's put it this way. When he took over in 2023, they were in deep shit. He got them to escape relegation, and then this past season, where he had a full season in charge of Hoffenheim, he managed to get them to finish in 7th place and to qualify to the Europa League. Matarazzo knows how to adapt, his teams know how to defend well and hit the opponents in transition, while also knowing how to defend a counterattack. I mean, he is a Bundesliga coach. It almost feels like, you have to know how to play in transition in that league. It's very back and forth, which, by the way, I believe the United States men's national team would do a lot better if we played in transition. Like we used to back in the day. So Pellegrino Matarazzo is American and proven in the Bundesliga, which I must add, it's one of the most well-coached leagues in the world, if not the most. Matarazzo would be a great signing, and you know what? US Soccer has spoken to him in the past, back in 2023. Will they manage to convince him now and close a deal this time around? It might be tough since he will be in the Europa League with Hoffenheim, but at the same time, it's Hoffenheim. What else can you accomplish there? They're not going to win the Europa League. They're not going to qualify to the Champions League, at least I don't think they will. Maybe he can take 2 years off from the Bundesliga, take over the United States men's national team, have a successful World Cup, and then head back to the Bundesliga, head back to Germany. There will be a market for him there because he has proven that he can coach in the Bundesliga. With that said, everyone, before we continue, don't forget to drop a like if you haven't already. It's a great way to help the channel and it boosts us in the YouTube algorithm. And now, before we continue, we'll be back in a minute because we have to put a quick word from the sponsor of this video, Underdog Fantasy. We'll be back in 1 minute. Underdog Fantasy is a fun game to play prior to any soccer match or basketball, football as well. It just adds an extra excitement to the game. And this summer, I will be playing Underdog Fantasy during the Copa America and Euros. You can download the app by using the link in the description of this video and use the promo code TMTV. Yes, please, don't forget to use the code. And let me tell you why. Sign up with the code TMTV to claim your special pick plus a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. The game I mainly play is called Pick'em. I just click on it, scroll to the soccer section, and pick a player for the specific match and select the stats that I believe will be lower or higher. It's very easy to play, but be smart about it because it's not that easy to win. I'll also be playing some Underdog Fantasy during some match live streams during the Copa America and Olympics, posting my picks on X and Instagram, so you must stay tuned for that as well. And once again, I'm a professional hater, so usually I pick anything that will have me rooting for the downfall of that player. With that said, once again, thank you Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the channel. The link to play is in the description of this video, and the promo code once again is TMTV. Thank you Underdog Fantasy. All right, the next coach is someone you're probably familiar with, and his name is Ugo Pettis. So with Ugo, there are plenty of positives. Otherwise, I wouldn't even list him. But let me share my main concern first. And the concern is he has a good relationship with a lot of the leaders in this group. And you may be asking, why the heck is that a problem? No, seriously, what can go wrong? What's the issue with a coach having a good relationship with the players? Well, my concern is that something similar to Berhalter will happen, where a group of like 4 to 5 players pretty much control and dictate what happens. Pulisic with set pieces, Tyler Adams playing whenever he wants, even when he's injured. These players are in charge, and they're too comfortable with Berhalter. My fear is that bringing a coach like Ugo Pettis could cause the same, that they would be way too comfortable with them, where Weston McKennie just goes to a hookah bar after we take a horrible loss to Panama. He doesn't care because he's comfortable with that coach. Now understand, Ugo Pettis is a lot tougher than Berhalter. He says it as it is, and he is far more competent. But I do share that concern. Ugo is good in building an identity for the team, and he has proved that with El Salvador, that he got their whole to be greater than the sum of its parts. He made it to the final 8 in World Cup qualifying during the 2022 cycle, and the team looked very competitive. They got a 0-0 draw with the United States when they played in El Salvador, and then they lost to the US men's national team in the United States just 1-0, with far less talent. Keep in mind, El Salvador does not have good players. My brother in Christ, their best player was Alex Roldan, which is not even the best Roldan. You know Christian Roldan that we kept complaining about being the national team and he shouldn't be there? Alex Roldan is worse, and he was by far El Salvador's best player. And somehow, Ugo Pettis, also the Berhalter tax, managed to only lose 1-0 in the United States and to pull a 0-0 draw in El Salvador. So imagine what Ugo Pettis could do with better players like the US men's national team and, more resources that the US Soccer Federation can provide. He's currently unemployed and available. He knows the US player pool, he loves this country, is a strong leader, and has gotten a national team to punch above its weight. Again, is he the best we can get? I don't think so. But I would be fine if we gave Ugo Pettis a shot. And I know some of you are going to say that he tweeted recently that he's not going to take the job only after 2026. Understand, his family and the Berhalter family, they're not super close like BFFs, but they know each other. There's some friendship there. I know Gerson Pettis, his son, has met with Gregg Berhalter. And Berhalter is technically, or when he tweeted that, was technically still the US men's national team coach. He would never say he wants the job in this cycle until US Soccer says Berhalter is out. And he still might not say anything. But what I'm saying is, if Berhalter's fired and the federation reaches out to Ugo Pettis, I think he will accept the job. The fourth coach is Wilfried Nancy. And before I even talk about him, please hit the like button to boost the YouTube algorithm. Wilfried Nancy is a 47-year-old French coach, also one of the Frenchiest Frenchmen to ever French, just like Herve Renard. It's kind of weird. It seems like I really like French coaches. He's currently in charge of the Columbus Crew, and in my opinion, he's the best coach in MLS. So if he was to become the United States men's national team coach, he would probably only be available early 2024. We would need an interim head coach for 6 months, which is honestly fine. It's not like we have any games that really matter for the rest of this year. We have some Nations League games and some friendlies. He got Montreal to punch above its weight back in 2022, finishing second in the Eastern Conference and losing in the playoffs. For context, the year prior, when they didn't have Wilfried Nancy, they finished in 10th place. Then in 2023, the year after, where they also didn't have Wilfried Nancy, they finished in 10th place again. So second place with him, and then without him, the season before and after, 10th place. So after the 2022 season with Montreal, which was fairly successful, he got them to punch above their weight. He went to the Columbus Crew in 2023. Now listen, the Crew didn't even make the playoffs in 2022. But then with Nancy in 2023, they won MLS Cup. You know what the evidence is here? He consistently makes teams better. He makes them also play enjoyable soccer to watch while getting great results. I also want to add the fact that he made it to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final in 2024. He lost to Pachuca, but during that path to the final, he knocked out Tigres, Monterrey, teams that have a much larger budget than him, and he knocked them out in the knockout rounds, right? Quarterfinals, semifinals. He didn't only do good in 2022. He did good in 2022, 2023, and he's still doing good in 2024. And just a bonus, his teams play enjoyable soccer. Could he suck for the national team? Maybe. His system might be a little bit too complex to implement. I think he's a very smart guy, very competent. He would adapt. He would figure out. I think he would be a great national team coach. But one thing is for sure with Wilfried Nancy, we would not be boring. Soccer terrorism would be long gone. He is probably the only MLS coach that I actually rate. I really respect this guy. He is actually a very good coach. Last but not least, we have Marcelo Gallardo. And I don't know how realistic this one is. I kind of just put him on the list because he's a really good coach. He's a very good leader. He knows his shit and he's available. But I'll be brief on Gallardo. I was between him and Patrick Vieira, the French manager. But I put too many Frenchmen in this video and I didn't want to include a third one. But I'm gonna go with Gallardo. He might not be my number one option, but he might actually be the best coach out of all the ones that I mentioned. And listen, I do not like Argentina, not one bit, but they do produce great coaches. Marcelo Gallardo is one of them, and he's currently unemployed as he just got sacked from Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia. He did tremendous work at River Plate over the past few years, winning 2 Copa Libertadores, one in 2015 and another in 2018. On top of that, he also made it to the final once in 2019. He knows the game, he can adapt, he will demand a lot from the players, and he could be a game changer. He would also not tolerate a lot of the bullshit that Berhalter allowed on and off the field. The players would respect him. My only concerns with him are as follows. He has no national team experience as a coach, only as a player. And we don't know if he speaks English. I know he did play for DC United in MLS back when David Beckham was here, I think in 2008 or 9, but I don't remember seeing Gallardo speaking English. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. If you ever seen him speaking English, let me know in the comment section down below. Regardless, Marcelo Gallardo is available, and if US Soccer is able to get him, I would 100% support them with this signing. He would actually be the best coach the US men's national team has ever had. Honestly, outside of Ugo Pettis, I think all the coaches that I mentioned in this list, they would be the best or most competent US men's national team coach that we've ever signed. All of them. Maybe even Ugo Pettis. He seems very good, but I'm just saying out of those 5, he might be a bit debatable with Klinsmann, with Bruce Arena, Bob Bradley, but all others, at least their resume is better than any other national team we've ever hired. All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go, and let me know in the comment section down below, who do you want to replace Gregg Berhalter? Fingers crossed. Hopefully Berhalter is gone soon. Hopefully we get rid of him. I cannot stand him. I can't even really process the thought of Gregg Berhalter staying. With that said, I want to thank you all very much for watching. Thank you, Underdog, for sponsoring the stream, and have a great day.